That away from issues around pension, now we shift our attention to look at the issue around transportation. Of course, a lot of issues is there. That sector is very, very critical. We're looking at the cost and, of course, the infrastructure deficit that we are experiencing in our transportation sector. I'm being joined in the studio by someone who is, I'll call a city transport expert, the co-founder of Nairaxi, Mr. Kingsley Eze. You join me in the studio. Glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me again.
All right, it's always a pleasure. Our Nigerian transport sector faces numerous challenges. You are in the sector, you just came back from Jos to fix one or two things, I'm sure. What are some of the peculiar challenges that we are fixing? I know the minister is commissioning box terminals in Abuja here and there. Most of those terminals, they don't even have buses.
I think the first of all, we must give credit to the Honorable Minister for thinking long term in terms of revitalizing the city transportation infrastructure. So having the bus terminal first is a step in the right direction, but we believe that other things should follow, like you mentioned, which is how do we provide excellent, sustainable transportation that will last, that will deliver the value, that will touch the lives of the common man, and at least that is sustainable. Not something we can see in the next 2 months. We cut ribbons, and after 1 year, the buses are all dilapidated and out of commission. So that is the question, which is where I believe personally that the public-private partnership should come in place. First of all, the first component is the buses itself that citizens will use in commuting from point A to point B. So how do you acquire that particular bus? What type of bus is ideal for such operations? So first of all, before you can replicate something nice, you need to see a model that works. If you go to Colombia, they have one of the best city transportation
in the world,
endorsed by the UN. So we should look at what they are doing. What are they doing there? First of all, the separated asset ownership and the government and the service providers. So what they did was they had lots of service providers come in with their buses. They paid for those buses themselves, and they put it under a framework endorsed by the state, which I feel that is what can work. So, because we've seen Aerofy bought like 100 buses, more than 100, and
all of them are dilapidated. They're even off the road.
Yeah. So, if the government should apply that same procedure.
But what does that say about our maintenance culture? You talk about the bus terminal now as a welcome development.
Yes.
The ribbon has been many of them have been commissioned, like I did mention, without buses. How long are we going to keep maintaining them before the buses come? Don't forget, they told us that we're going to have CNG buses, and it's taking us years for us to get those buses.
I can't speak on behalf of the minister, but I guess they have their own plans. But the idea here is, if we keep on doing what we did previously, we're going to get the same result we got. So that is the bottom line, which is separation of the asset, the service provider, and the state, which is FCT, to provide that framework for private players to come and play. So in this case, I think one of the reasons why the maintenance culture is so bad is because what bus companies make from tickets is not enough to maintain the buses, pay staff, pay for high cost of energy, and still remain profitable, which is where the idea of government subsidy comes in place. Like in Jos, obviously, is a subsidized transport service.
System,
They pay 200 for a ride that could have cost 500. So it means that for every 200 or for every ride a citizen takes in the day, 300 is subsidized by the government. So this idea of subsidy is what we need to come in full terms with, that even if you bring Nairaxi today to run the bus service, what we will get from commuters will not be enough to maintain those buses. And any service provider, be it by the state or by another provider, that will tell you we can do it, you're going to still get the same result. Because if you check how much you are spending to fuel the buses, even if it is CNG, obviously you need to build charging station, you need to have your battery replacement plan. In 5 years, you're going to replace those batteries, and it's more like buying those buses. So you need to have that long-term plan so that you can have a sustainable form of transportation. Take the New York metro service, where it's still subsidized by 30%. So we're not saying government pay 100%, which is socialism or communism. But here is understand that this is a way citizens can feel your impact. You can track it. And that is where the electronic ticketing system comes in play. Everybody has a credit voucher. So if you want, I can subsidize out of 20 days in a month, we can only do subsidy for 5 days. It is something. If it is 300 times 5 days, that's how much? That's 1.5, right?
Absolutely.
So you have that in people's, credit voucher. They know that this is what we benefited. And when it comes to what have you done in terms of transportation for the common man, you can have that as a good point to go.
Yeah, indeed, our exposure to technology is also another thing. A lot of people find it difficult to use these devices that you did mention. How do you think we can embrace it? Is a way to, to ensure accountability and transparency. Part of the problem I think we face is the issue of corruption as well.
Yeah, I think the thing here is trying to reduce the technological barrier. I'll use our project in Jos. What we did was we made sure that at least there's no apps. You don't need to download an app on your phone to use the service. We also worked with how do we rely less on internet. At least let the service work. I don't need to have 4G connection on each bus for the payment system to work.
That's interesting.
And also, how do you distribute cards with less infrastructure available? Till now, they don't have bus terminals. They are still building bus terminals. But I can tell you authoritatively that more than 10,000 benefit every single day. So imagine powering 10,000 every day for 30 days or 26 days in a month. That's almost 260,000 lives that you are, to the extent that the president commended the bus service. So, and they are running with 15 buses. So it's not about the numbers. It's not about making sure there's so much technology. It's reducing that, which is an NFC powered card. Find a way to have those cards validated, pre-validated before distribution, so that you reduce the number of offices and make sure that the ticketing system relies less and less on the internet. So when there is internet, it can compute, the number of people that used it, but at least for the first point of entry for a commuter, because they don't care.
Exactly.
A market woman going to the market, will they have to wait till your app, rows and rows before they get into the bus? So less on reducing the technological barrier, making sure that you plan for the barest minimum to reduce cost.
Indeed. What model is Lagos State using? Lagos has been using BRT for a long time. I was in Lagos for many years.
Yes.
And up to today, that model is still working. What model are they using that other states, like FCT, for example, can actually copy?
The thing is, Lagos is a grand city. Their BRT system is funded by the World Bank. All right, so they had enough liquidity to make their mistake and get the system running up till now. And they also applied the public-private partnership. They still have private providers that are providing both the technology, both the buses, and the state is, providing the enabling environment. So part of what they are doing that make them very successful is some of the things that we have mentioned. But we can't use them as a benchmark because, first of all, the funding aspect. Not all states have access to, World Bank powered project. Not all states have, high, humongous internally generated revenue that can be deployed for public transportation. So we need to work on how best can we work with the scarce resources that we have to achieve the same model you have in Lagos.
Indeed. And that also brings me to the issue of Abuja transport system.
Yes.
It seems it's not structured. It's unstructured. It's more like it's open to everybody. Somebody can buy a vehicle today and then put it on the road. And that is why we're having cases of a lot of, abduction and so many other one chance, as they call them in Abuja. What do you think can be done to have it more structured? You have a very structured area that you're managing. What do you think can be done in other areas so that, you can have a structured system? If I'm entering a vehicle, I should know where it's originating from.
Yeah. Anyway, part of the conversations we're already having with the Abuja Transport Department is the area of identification of most of these buses.
Absolutely.
Or public taxis, which I'm sure you are going to see it roll out. They are working seriously on what we call the Abuja Intelligent Transportation. It is. So it's going to be, you're going to hear from them. I can't speak on their behalf, but work is already in progress in terms of making sure identification is number one. Two is also making sure at least the type of taxis and public transit modes are at least revamped. You don't need to have rickety taxis. So we're also bringing in a few foreign partners that want to provide access to these vehicles. So at least we've had point of contact in terms of making sure that the taxis are new taxis, electric taxis, trying to move a step, in the right direction where the world is going to in terms of sustainability. So it's work in progress. We hope that, the FCT administration can see such proposals and fast track it, because you can't sit on this. Abuja is the capital of Nigeria. Nigeria is going to be one of the biggest countries come 2027. So we need to act like our future.
Now, in terms of cost of some of these vehicles that you mentioned, new electric vehicles, I know electric vehicles are quite expensive. In terms of cost, do you think commuters can afford to pay for the cost of transportation of such vehicles?
Anyway, I agree with you in terms of the huge upfront cost, but what you also check is in terms of you're going to cut out the fuel that you're going to be using. And also that in advanced countries, there is what they call electric subsidy. Electric subsidy is that you can waive import duty. For example, a Camry can cost you 16 million. Then a brand new electric taxi can be, let's say, 30 million. You can still see some at $10,000, which is like 16 million. And you need to ship it with, like, let's say 3 million. That's already 19. So if you say, okay, you're not going to pay duty on this electric car, that's already a plus. Because we are trying to, a regular Camry versus a brand new electric car. That's how the taxi providers, that's how they think. How much is this and how much is this? Absolutely. So if it makes sense economically in terms of, okay, there's a subsidy in terms of there's no import duty, it's a brand new car, I'm not going to buy fuel. And also an incentive by the government that, okay, fine, if you have an electric taxi in the city, there are certain incentives for you. Probably access to the new parks. It must be purely electric. And also probably like you can go harsher by having a stipulation that by 2030, there should be no car below 2016. So those are like policies that you can make. And you have car manufacturers that see Nigeria as a thriving market. They are willing to come. Even banks are willing to finance things like this because transport is a very lucrative business if it is done properly. So indeed, banks to finance, car companies to provide the vehicles, but government needs to see this as a priority for them.
Indeed, of course, the box is stop on the government table.
Yes.
Let's, as we wrap up the conversation now, you talk about having vehicles that are roadworthy. If you go to a road now, there are so many vehicles that you think should actually be parked at probably at the motor park or as the case may be. Yes. But we still see them on the road. And it doesn't seem to have a road transport working agents talking about VIO and of course the rest doing enough to take those vehicles off the road.
Anyway, you're not going to blame the road or the VIO. How are they going to afford the new cars? That's another question. Oh, if you take them off the road, what would be the alternative? There's no alternative. So you must start somewhere. You can't go, 100%, I want to face it. You create a crisis.
Can we get to a point whereby if your vehicle, if you buy a vehicle and use it up to a certain years and you don't have funds to change it, government can actually take it from you and of course give you a new one?
That's why we have this conversation, to at least put it in the purview of the government that this is really a problem. So you can't, but you have to start somewhere. So imagine every year FCT is adding 20 cars every year, and some banks in partnership is adding another 100. In 4 years, you should have like 400 taxis. So when you now phase out, the 400 new taxis will have more demand. So then private people can say, oh, for me to join the guys making a lot of money, I need to buy a car of this certain standard. So you must create the incentive to drive the change that you want to.
Indeed,
see.
and if you have an effective public transportation system, some of these private vehicles who are into this business may probably be off the market.
Yeah, sure. Why should you drive? Most civil servants, their routine is always drive to the office, park at the car park, and by 4 o'clock, drive home. So if you have access to clean cars that can still do the same thing for you, why would you drive? And it's cheap and it's accessible. So why should you drive? So the market is there. It's just for the government to help stimulate it in collaboration with the private sector.
Indeed, and of course, you need to talk more with the FCT minister. I believe he's a listening person who will listen to some of the suggestions that you have raised. I must thank you, Kingsley Eze, City Transport Experts, co-founder and CEO of Nairaxi. Thank you for your time. We appreciate your contributions.
Thank you for having me again.
Thank you so much. With that, is a wrap on the show today. We'll be back again tomorrow. I am Yusuf Akugun.